Book, From Loser to Seducer by Frankbkermit. It is the story of a nice guy who triumphs over his inner demons to find his own hidden power. Help a nice guy in your life discover his inner seducer to find his soulmate. Buy this book now at franktalks.com.
You want to learn new things? Want to meet new people? Want to discover real possibilities? Listen to Franck Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles in Making the World a Better Place. Be sure to visit our website at www.franktalks.com for the most up-to-date information and the latest downloads of programs just like the one you are listening to now.
You're listening to Franck Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. We're in studio today with Mr. Tristan Lauber. How are you, sir?
Doing well, doing well.
And he's talking to us about being a concert pianist. In the last interview segment, we were talking about how people just don't seem to understand that a concert pianist or a professional musician could be susceptible to a lot of physical ailments, very specific ones. And I think that's a symptom of the fact that most people really don't know what the day-to-day lifestyle is of a professional musician, in your case, a concert pianist. Let's talk about some of the competition you face in your profession. How steep is this competition? How do you deal with professional jealousy and possible resentment of your profession?
It's very touchy. I have you might call it a two-sided approach to the issue, which is that I approach colleagues rather carefully and cautiously, but generally I approach them openly and quite warmly. I'll even go so far as to literally ask them to listen to me play, just because I respect them, I respect their playing, and want to hear what they have to say about it and share. It's also a test in a way, though, because there are two categories. There are the colleagues who are wonderful, and they're touched that that another colleague would come up to them and want to play for them, and they treat me with courtesy, respect. They're positive, and sure, they have criticisms. That's why I go to them. They may disagree with things that I'm doing, with how I'm doing things, but they say it in a constructive way. Once those who react that way become allies and friends, not just colleagues, but allies and friends. But then there are others who, unfortunately, don't behave that way, and they it's not always extremely overt, but they subtly try to psych you out and just subcommunicate that you really don't respect who you are, what you've done. They don't believe in what you're doing. And those are the ones that you know that you just keep a distance from. And it's unfortunate because I think that there are enough wars in this world that I don't think we need to start any new ones over piano technique or stylistic differences, interpretation differences. Unfortunately, it's not the case. And there's a power struggle, of course, in this business like there is in any other highly competitive business. And as much as one likes to be easygoing, laid back, and approach everybody as a friend, those who do and do only that get their genes basically weeded out of existence because they don't, emotionally, they can't survive. Eventually they get hurt all the time because they're just way too nice. So then you have to realize that you can be open with people, but as soon as they disrespect you, then you just shut them out of your life and you just keep a distance from them. And you realize that they will never be allies, they will never be friends. And that's the sad fact of life, and you can just wish them well and hope that in the next life somehow maybe you will get along. And slowly that's how it happens. You build alliances and friendships, and you associate with people who are like-minded, and they may not necessarily see eye to eye on everything you do, but that's all right. That's fine. That's how you learn. It's very important not to operate in a vacuum. You don't want to live in an ivory tower. I never do an important concert without playing for trusted friends, except that as a concert pianist, you learn not to trust just anybody. You're very, very selective about who you play for. There are some people that you can play for because they make you feel comfortable, and those who don't, you just, like I said, stay away from. So that's how I handle the whole issue of professional rivalry and jealousy. And sometimes it's very sad and very painful to see people that you actually do like for many other reasons, and you realize that you have no choice but to keep them at a distance because they maybe sometimes they're not even aware of it, but this is what they do. They siphon off your energy, and you know it. If you're around them and after playing for them you feel depressed and want to change careers and deliver pizzas, then you know that something is wrong.
The stereotype of an artiste is sometimes displayed as someone who is very petty, someone who tries to take down or say hurtful things to their would-be allies or would-be colleagues. And from what you're describing, that stereotype seems to have some merit, and I'd like your thoughts on that.
Yep, it's unfortunate. I was reading an article recently written by a sociologist who was studying various societies, where, whether it be tribal societies, villages, large cities, in our time and in the past throughout human history. And this particular sociologist came up with 3 categories. He said people fall into 3 categories in social interactions. There are the cooperators, the freeloaders, and the shunners. The cooperators are those who are nice to everybody. They think they can be friends with everybody. It's a very childlike way of seeing the world. It's very touching when a 5 or 6-year-old goes up to a perfect stranger and, wants to give him or her a hug. But unfortunately, the child has to grow up at a certain point and realize that not everybody's going to accept that kind of a hug and that kind of warmth. The freeloader is the one who, the name sort of describes the whole concept. It's somebody who freeloads off of other people. The kind of person who you invite to your parties and concerts or events, but then you realize after 6 months, a year, a couple of years that you've never been invited to anything. But they're always showing up and more than gladly to schmooze with the people that you're introducing to them, but you haven't met anybody from them. So those are the freeloaders. And the shunners are the category of people that ideally you want to belong to. Those are those who are like the cooperators. They work with people. They give them a chance. But once they realize that it's not a two-way street, that they give, and never get anything in return, then they shun. They simply shun and shut out those people that are disrespectful or that have issues, the kind of issues that you just described in the question you asked me. And this particular sociologist hypothesized that those are the ones. It's survival of the fittest. Those are the ones who survive and thrive. The cooperators die out. And the freeloaders, they do succeed. But of course, they can eventually get weeded out as well.
You mentioned earlier in this conversation the idea that, maybe in their next life, they'll find a way to be better people. What is or are some of the belief structures you have or faiths that you have that keep you going? Because obviously you're in an environment where you have to be a very strong character in order to survive and succeed.